The day I turned 18, I didn't buy a lottery ticket or throw a party. I walked into a courthouse and paid $150 to erase my father's last name from my entire existence. He left when I was just 6 years old, married a woman who spent the next 12 years making sure I understood I was a guest in his life, not part of it. And he broke every promise he ever whispered in my ear. If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, hit that subscribe button and join Anonymous Confessions. We share these real, raw stories together. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from tonight. At my graduation, in front of everyone, his new wife said something so cruel it should have destroyed me. But it didn't. It did something else entirely. It set me free. My name is Natalie, and I'm 18. This is the story of how I chose myself. Let me take you back to the summer I was 6, the night my father packed a navy blue duffel bag. I remembered the exact color because I asked him if he was going camping. He crouched down, held my face in his hands, and kissed my forehead. "I'll be back by Friday, Nat." Friday came, and Friday went. He moved to an apartment 40 minutes east, close enough to drive, but far enough to have an excuse every single time. My mom never cried in front of me. She just put on her scrubs, went to her night shift at the hospital, and came home at 6 in the morning with dark circles under her eyes that looked painted on. But I heard her at night, through the bedroom wall. The sound was muffled, like she was pressing her face into a pillow so I wouldn't know she was breaking. But I knew. Then Grandma Ruth moved in. She brought her cast iron skillet and a quilt made from my grandfather's old flannel shirts. She didn't say much about my dad, except this: "Your daddy loves you, baby. He just forgot how to show it." At 6, you believe your grandmother the way you believe the ground is solid, without question. I didn't know her name yet, the woman who would change everything, but I learned it soon enough. Diane Caldwell. She became Diane Myers on a Saturday in October when I was 7. The wedding was in her parents' backyard on the nice side of town with brick mailboxes. I wore a yellow dress my mom picked out. Diane smiled at me during the ceremony. She took my hand after and leaned down. "We're going to be a family now, Natalie." Her perfume smelled like gardenias. Her grip was firm. I wanted to like her. I really tried. But later that night, sitting on the porch steps waiting for my mom's headlights, I heard Diane's voice through the cracked screen door. "She can visit Greg, but not every weekend. We need our own space." My dad mumbled something I couldn't hear, the sound of a man who didn't want to fight. After that night, the visits started shrinking. Every weekend became every other became once a month, and once a month became when it worked out. And it almost never worked out. We're halfway through, and if this feeling of being pushed aside hits home, go ahead and smash that like button. And please, share your own story in the comments. You are not alone here. Here's what 12 years of broken promises look like. I started keeping a notebook when I was 8, a dollar store composition book. I didn't write in it because I was angry. I wrote in it because I needed proof. Proof I wasn't imagining things. Page 1. Dad said he'd come to my piano recital. He didn't. Page 4. Dad said he'd pick me up for Christmas Eve. He called at 3 p.m. Something came up. Page 14. Dad said he'd take me fishing at Cedar Lake. He texted at 7 a.m. Rain check. Rain check. That was his favorite phrase. The child support arrived on the 1st of every month. $743, never late. My dad held on to that number like a life raft. Money instead of presents. That was his math. I was 12 the last time I ate Thanksgiving at his house. Diane set the table with cloth napkins and calligraphy place cards. When I walked in, she introduced me to a woman I'd never met. "This is Greg's daughter," she said. Pause. "From before. Not Natalie, not my stepdaughter, Greg's daughter from before, like I was a piece of leftover furniture." At the table, there were 14 chairs and 14 name cards. Mine wasn't there. I pulled a folding chair from the garage and wedged it between my dad and the wall. My plate hung half off the table. My dad saw. His jaw tightened. He opened his mouth. "Diane, maybe we can—" "It's fine, Greg," she said, not looking down from the cranberry sauce. I called Grandma Ruth from the hallway. "Come get me." She didn't ask why, she just said, "15 minutes, baby." In the car, we stopped at the diner on Route 9 and split a piece of pumpkin pie. Ruth looked at me over her reading glasses. "You don't have to earn a seat at anyone's table, Natalie. You already have one at ours." That was the last Thanksgiving I ever spent in Diane's house. The year I turned 14, my father forgot my birthday. Not the way you forget milk, the way you forget the name of someone you used to know. July 28th came and went. No call, no card, nothing. 3 days late, my phone buzzed. One text. "Sorry, Nat, crazy week. Happy belated." 2 words, like I was a coworker he barely knew. That same month, I found the photos on Facebook. Diane had made a gallery titled Our Little Family. Greg, Diane, and their friends at a barbecue, Greg at a charity gala, Greg holding a neighbor's baby. 12 photos. I scrolled through every single one. I wasn't in any of them. Not one. Our little family. I sat on my bed and looked at my school ID. Natalie Myers. I said it out loud, listening for something. Belonging, pride, anything. All I heard was the name of a man who forgot my birthday and didn't notice for 3 days. The text arrived on a Tuesday in November. I was 16, working the register at a bookshop after school. My phone lit up. "Dad, you have a brother now, Thomas Gregory Myers. Mom and baby doing great." Mom and baby, he meant Diane. I stared at the screen, deleted the text, and went back to shelving paperbacks. That night, I opened my laptop and typed 4 words. How to legally change your name at 18. I wasn't angry, I was curious, the way you look for an exit when a room starts feeling too small. I read the results, I noted the filing fee, $200, 8 shifts at the bookshop. 2 months before graduation, I called my dad. I don't know why, maybe it was that last flicker of hope. "Dad, graduation is June 14th. "I'll be there, Nat." His voice was automatic. "You said that about the recital." A pause. The TV got quieter. "This is different, I promise." I hung up and placed the phone face down on my desk. I didn't feel hopeful. I felt the flat calm of someone who's been handed a lottery ticket they already know won't win. Graduation day, June 14th. Ridgewater High School football field. I was in my cap and gown, sitting in the senior section, alphabetical by last name, M for Myers, not for much longer. I scanned the bleachers. Grandma Ruth was there in her Sunday hat, my mom beside her in scrubs, and then I saw him, my father, 4th row, far left. My chest did something I didn't expect, a tightening, a knot of relief and grief tangled together. Then I saw who was sitting next to him. Diane, hair blown out, sunglasses on her head like a headband, Tommy on her hip. He didn't come alone, he brought the whole production. Natalie Ann Myers. The name came through the speakers. I walked across the stage, shook the principal's hand, and gripped my diploma. I looked out at the crowd. Ruth was standing, both hands over her mouth, my mom clapping hard, and my dad, he was standing too. Slow clap, eyes on me. For the first time in 12 years, my father was standing up because of me. I walked down the steps, and he was there. He opened his arms and hugged me. Awkward, stiff. "I'm proud of you, Nat." 4 words, the 4 words I'd been waiting for since I was 6. They hit my chest like a fist. I closed my eyes. I let myself have 3 seconds. Then Diane opened her mouth. A woman from their church walked over. "Diane, you must be so proud of her." Diane shifted Tommy on her hip. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, I'm not her mother. Greg has history." The air shifted, the way sound gets thin right before a storm.
Then she turned her head just enough to make sure the cluster of parents behind her could hear, and she said it. "You were never really his daughter anyway." 8 words, casual, practiced, like she'd been saving that line for the right audience. 3 seconds of real silence, the kind that swallows everything. I looked at my father, he looked at the ground. No correction, no, "Diane, stop," no, "defense," just his eyes dropping to the grass, the same decision he'd made for 12 years. Ruth was already at my side, her hand on my elbow, steady, warm. "Let's go home, sweetheart." I nodded. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I waited 12 years for my father to choose me. He finally had the chance right there in front of everyone, and he chose silence. Silence was his answer, and I finally accepted it.
That night, I sat on Grandma Ruth's back porch. Crickets, fireflies, the smell of honeysuckle. She came out with 2 glasses of sweet tea. "Tell me about Grandpa Walter," I said. She smiled. "He was a carpenter, built this house with his own hands, and the name Ashford, it means a crossing by the ash trees, a place where you leave one thing behind and step into something new." The next morning, I opened my laptop. This time, I didn't close the tab. If you've made it this far, you're part of this community now. Please, like this video, subscribe to Anonymous Confessions, and tell me in the comments, have you ever had to rebuild your own name from scratch? I filed the petition, $150, 4 to 6 weeks for a hearing. My birthday is July 28th. I'd file that week. The hearing would be in September, right before community college started. I'd walk into my first class with a new name. I opened the notebook, page 43. Below the long list of broken promises, I wrote 2 words. New name. Natalie Ashford. It didn't sound like revenge. It sounded like the name of someone who chose her own crossing. 2 weeks after graduation, my dad called. "Nat, about what Diane said." "Which time?" Silence. "She didn't mean it." "Dad, she's been meaning it for 12 years. I'll talk to her." "You've been saying that since I was 7. Another pause. "I'm sorry, Nat. I know you are. That's the problem." He said he'd drive out Saturday, just us. Saturday came, 10 a.m., a text. "Diane's not feeling well. Can we reschedule?" I read the text once, set the phone down, and went downstairs to eat the pancakes my mom made. Page 44. Dad canceled again. "Diane's not feeling well." That was the last entry in the notebook. The line between hope and pattern recognition finally snapped. July 28th, my 18th birthday. Lemon cake for breakfast, sunflowers from Ruth's garden. My phone buzzed. Dad. "Happy birthday, Nat." 3 words. No call, no card, just a text that took less effort than ordering coffee. I set the phone face down on the counter and left it there. Then I sat my mom and Ruth down at the kitchen table. "I want to change my last name to Ashford." The kitchen went quiet. My mom looked at me the way she looks at x-rays, carefully. "Are you sure?" "I'm not angry, Mom. I'm done waiting." Ruth squeezed my hand. "I'll drive you to the courthouse." The Circuit Court of Ridgewater County, a limestone building with water stains on the columns. I wore a white button-down shirt. It felt like armor. I filled out the 4-page form. Current name, Natalie Ann Myers. Requested name, Natalie Ruth Ashford. Reason, personal. I pulled out a white envelope with 15 $10 bills. The clerk took it. Hearing in 4 to 6 weeks. 3 weeks later, the notice arrived, September 8th. And in a small town, news travels faster than light. My phone rang. Dad. His voice was tight. "Someone at the courthouse told me you filed papers. I'm changing my last name." "You can't do that." "I'm 18. I can." "Why would you?" "Because it hasn't been mine for a long time." He begged me to let him fix it. I said, "You've had 12 years." He started to say, "Diane didn't mean—" Stop. The word landed like a door closing. "I love you, Nat." "I know." "Goodbye, Dad." I hung up. My hands weren't shaking. September 8th. The courtroom was small, wood paneling, fluorescent lights. I sat at the petitioner's table. Ruth and my mom sat in the gallery behind me. The chair across from me was empty. No Greg, no Diane. Judge Morrow opened my file. "Any objections?" "None on record." She looked at me. "You understand this is permanent?" "Yes, on your honor." She signed the order. The pen scratched against the paper. A small sound. The sound of 12 years ending in one stroke. "Effective today. Your legal name is Natalie Ruth Ashford." Behind me, Ruth gasped. She didn't know about the middle name. I turned around. She was crying. We walked out of the courthouse into the September sun. Ruth took my left hand. My mom took my right. We walked like that 3 across, all the way to the Buick. Then we drove to the dairy barn on Route 9 for ice cream. 3 scoops, non-negotiable. That night, I sat at my desk. A white envelope, a single sheet of paper. I had written a long letter in my head 100 times. Every missed birthday, every cruel comment. But he already knew all of that. The problem was never information. It was choice. So I only wrote 3 words. She was right. Diane said I was never really his daughter, and his 12 years of absence, his silence at my graduation, his empty chair at the hearing, made her right. I folded the paper, put it in the envelope, added a copy of the court order, and dropped it in the mailbox at the end of the driveway. I didn't follow up. I didn't call. The letter was a period at the end of a sentence, not the start of a conversation. 3 days later, my mom came home from a hospital shift. Greg came into urgent care for a blood pressure check. Looked like he hadn't slept. The following Sunday, Ruth heard from a friend at church. Greg came to the morning service alone, no Diane. Sat in the back pew, head bowed, walked out before it ended. He showed up at the bookshop on a Wednesday. The bell jingled. He looked bad. Wrinkled shirt, red eyes. "Nat, can we talk?" "We are talking." He winced. "I didn't know it was that bad." "Yes, you did." He asked if he could fix it. "You can't unring a bell, and I don't need you to. I just needed you to know why." He looked at me for a long moment. Recognition. The slow, awful understanding of a man finally seeing the wreckage he drove past every day for 12 years. He nodded once. Then he turned and walked out. The bell jingled again. My hands shook for 30 seconds. Then I went back to pricing paperbacks. Within a week, the story came back to me. Greg and Diane had a real fight, the kind that shakes windows. He finally said it. "You told her she was never your daughter at her graduation. You were right, Diane. She was right, because I let it make true." I don't know what happens next between me and my father. Maybe he keeps going to counseling. Maybe one day I'll write back. But whatever happens, it will happen on my terms, with my name in my own time. If you're carrying a name, a relationship, or an expectation that doesn't feel like yours, you're allowed to put it down. Not out of hatred, out of self-respect. My name is Natalie Ruth Ashford, and for the first time in my life, my name sounds like me. It's October now. The ash trees along Ruth's property line have turned gold. I'm sitting in the rocker on her porch, 2 cups of chamomile tea. The crickets are singing. Ruth looks over at me. "You know what your grandfather would say right now?" "What?" She grins. "He'd say, 'About damn time.'" We laugh until the crickets go quiet. Then we settle back into the easy silence. I look up at the October sky, full of stars. "Hey, Grandpa Walter," I whisper. "It's nice to finally meet you properly. I'm Natalie." that's my story. If it made you feel something, anger, relief, recognition, please drop a comment. Have you ever let go of something that wasn't yours to carry? Hit subscribe for more stories like this. The link to our playlist is down below. And honestly, that's where it all ended.